Redditors who have moved to a new city, state, country, what is the most infuriating? Well, this is how it's done here thing you've come across. Moved from a rural town in northern Canada to a small city of only 6+ million people in China. The biggest difference is the driving. I have been driving since I was 12, backcountry road practice, and I will never get a license to drive here. Everyone drives offensively, to the point that riding shotgun in a taxi can be a harrowing experience for the uninitiated. The holy crap handles are definitely a boon here. I find it's best to not look at the road when someone is driving me around in China. I find it just makes me stress out. The constant beeping is pretty stressful too. My driver when I first got here decided that his rear view mirror was getting in the way of him seeing straight ahead, so he decided to push it as far up as he could. I moved to a very small country town. They had a recycling program. Every week a guy would pick all the recycling up, separate to the trash. I soon found out, when I questioned the regular plume of smoke I saw in the distance, that the recycling was picked up on a Wednesday and set alight on a Thursday, by the same guy, and it was an agreed upon and accepted fact in town. I moved to NZ from the USA. People go barefoot everywhere here. Stores, offices, the supermarket, schools, everywhere. I even went to see my doctor once and she was walking around barefoot in the examining room. Having grown up in the typical American no shoes, no shirt, no service culture, I've never quite adjusted to this facet of Kiwi life. Filthy little hobbitses. Grew up in the South, married a New Englander. Apparently if you live in Rhode Island, 15 minutes plus is too far to drive. Moved to Oregon a while back. Suddenly I wasn't able to pump my own gas. Japan, the country where it's impolite to blow your nose. It is instead somehow more appropriate to annoy the living heck out of all the other passengers of the train by constantly sniffling. Driving in Southern California. Well, missed my freaking exit. Guess this is the highway I will be on now. Forever. Might as well move to San Diego now and leave all of my possessions and my family behind. France. Store hours are fricked. Everything opens sort of whenever. Usually 9ish. Closes for 2 hours at lunchtime. Then closes for the day at 5. And everything's closed on Sundays. It's difficult to find time to run errands while going to school. I lived in Malta for a year and there were two in particular. 1. They don't have storm drains. Now it doesn't rain much in Malta, but the few days when it does rain moderately the streets simply flood. To make it worse, it's quite hilly, so all the water collects at the bottom and you get cars literally floating in water. Happens every year. 2. Most people heat their homes with gas and when your gas tank is empty, you simply bring it down to the gas tank truck and buy a new one. But how do you know when the gas tank truck will arrive? Well, that's easy. It simply drives by every week, usually around 6 AM on a Tuesday where I lived, and it drives really slowly honking its horn constantly so that anyone who needs a new gas tank, which happened to me exactly once the entire year, will wake up and have enough time to run down with money in the empty gas tank. The fact that the entire neighborhood is also woken and forced to stay up by the mercilessly incessant honking is just a side effect of this ingenious system. I moved to Germany from the US and getting internet service was unbelievably difficult. In the States you call the cable or phone company about establishing service. A technician comes out within a week and they won't leave before you're able to establish connectivity. In Germany, I signed an internet contract in late October and was told I would hear from someone in a few weeks. When I finally do get a letter confirming a date for the technician to come out, it's for early December. So the technician finally comes out, conducts diagnostic tests to ensure my port has been activated, and then he starts to leave. I ask if we can test to make sure I can log in and he tells me that's not his job. He only activates the ports and I should contact the cable company if I'm unable to get on the internet. So he leaves and despite having bought a pretty expensive router built to handle the speeds I opted for, I still couldn't log on. Numerous phone calls and a week later, the internet provider recommends I buy their special router, which is pretty expensive. And of course everything works fine. It was a frustrating experience overall. However, one good thing is that my phone and internet plan cost a fraction of what I paid in the States. New York to Baltimore. There is no law requiring you to signal when switching lanes. There apparently is also no law requiring you to look when doing so. Also, commercial vehicles can drive in the left lane. WTF. At any given time of day you can get stuck behind an 18-wheeler in the left lane. I moved to England when I was a teen. British teenagers. Man, I don't know how the UK even functions. Alcoholism is a sport. Petty crime and vandalism is an art form. It's the alcohol that I could never adjust to. There is drinking. Binge drinking. Seriously binge drinking, and then there's a night out in Sheffield. In the Los Angeles area, apartments and other rental units don't come with refrigerators. The tenant has to buy one and then bring it with them from place to place. No one seems to have any idea why, just the local standard. Paperwork. Gobs and gobs of paperwork, only to find out you didn't check that one box and have your crap pushed back another few months. Again, welcome to France. Pittsburgh is calling slices of ham warmed in a slow cooker with sweet ketchup barbecue. As a homesick Texan, attending my first Pittsburgh barbecue lunch was a gut punch of fury and disappointment. Old Bay seasoning is used as frequently, if not more frequently, than salt and pepper by Marylanders. I've seen people put it on everything here. I relocated to Pittsburgh and ordered a salad for lunch. There were French fries in my salad. Apparently that's called salad. Pittsburgh style. Spent 2 years living in France. Apparently, picking up your dog's crap isn't something they do over there. So, don't wear particularly nice shoes, and keep an eye on the ground at all times. A friend of mine once reported seeing a woman who allowed her dog to defecate inside the terminal building at CDG Airport before just walking off. Moved from Japan to England 4 years ago. I'm still not used to the crap show that is the English rail system. The trains are dirty. The scheduling is wildly inconvenient unless you are traveling from London or a major city. You're lucky to get one train per hour. Journeys are regularly delayed or cancelled, and unless you're more than an hour late you have no recourse to complain, be compensated. And to top it all off, it's expensive as heck. And the rates keep going up. I honestly have no idea how they justify these costs. The other day my train was delayed because they were unable to drive the train on the track because of leaves. If you call 911 for an ambulance and you're conscious, the responders have to ask you to decide which hospital you want to be taken to. Hooray for insurance companies, where, as you are bleeding to death, but awake, you have to take time to look up which emergency room and surgery center is in network. Moved from a state in Mexico, Hidalgo, to another, Puebla. When it comes to tacos, they put the tortilla first, then a bit of cheese, then the meat, as opposed to the more reasonable tortilla, meat, cheese combination they do in my hometown. It drives me crazy. You can barely taste the cheese. I hate tacos in Puebla. Ugh. Adelaide, Australia to Kent, UK. Why the frick is public transport so expensive? Why are the roads so narrow? Why can I buy alcohol from the corner store? Actually, that last one's okay. I moved from Michigan to Mississippi and had a customer freak out at me because I said, yup, instead of yes. So when I explained to him that I grew up in Michigan, he responded with, well, you know, all northerners lie through their teeth. I didn't know how to respond. At least I have teeth to lie through. Moved to Los Angeles. Nobody uses turn signals for changing lanes. I asked many people here, why in the world not? All of them replied, cause it'll warn others that I'm changing lanes and they'll speed up to block. Why I. Born and raised in LA. This is so true. Every driver has an out to get me mentality. Bumper to bumper on the 405 is the worst. I moved to live in the US for a year right after high school. They drive everywhere. My host kids looked at me funny when I suggested walking to the bookstore half a mile away. The host dad seriously suggested driving to the neighbor's house right around the corner. 3 people stopped to ask me if my car had broken down when I walked back from the grocery store with a bottle of Pepsi and some ice cream. What? American who lived in Hamburg, Germany. I loved it, but most if not all public restrooms cost money, about 50 cents to €1. This is probably what annoyed me the most, because I think peeing should be free, but that's how they do it there. I would spend 2-3 euros a day when I was out and about on bathrooms. It's fairly common across all of Europe. You'll notice if you travel. Many restaurants also charge for water. You have to specifically ask for flat water, because if you just say water they will assume bubbly water. Germans can't get enough of it. If you do not specify tap water they will bring you still water in a water bottle and charge you €2 for it. I just want free access to water and getting rid of water. Can't buy alcohol at the grocery store, and the landlord can enter your house without notice. Yay Colorado. I moved to the Oregon coast where there is a lot of rainfall and discovered that it is taboo to use an umbrella. They will stand out in the pouring liquid sunshine and mock anyone trying to stay dry. I moved to a small redneck town for work and school when I was around 17 years old. It only had around 3,000 inhabitants. Really small town, so there weren't many places to hang out. The only notable place was a gas station and random people's garages. Needless to say, the main interest in this town was cars. That's all kids talked about and that's all they ever did. Just went from garage to garage, kicking tires and talking about blown head gaskets. They couldn't hold a conversation about anything other than cars. Not sports, not video games, not politics or science, not even the fricking weather. It was the most depressing crap I've ever seen and it got old really fast. I grew up in a town of about 1,400. The hangout spot was Dairy Queen. In Taiwan people will bring any food they want to the movie theater including pungent fish, and it's okay to eat loudly and talk with your mouth full. Americans have virtually no vacation time. When I first finished my enlistment I moved to a small town in AR. We lived outside police jurisdiction and outside of a trash pickup zone. At first, I hated moving trash to the dump, but then after a few weeks I realized that I no longer had to deal with trash pickup. If I wanted to get hammered the night before and not wake up to take out the trash, I could just run it down the hill later on. Party trash that you don't want sitting in your bin for a week? Dump. Petrified possum that your dog brought home from the creek? Dump. Also, the guys at the dump were way cool and always wanted to know the backstory to my trash. I love telling stories, so it worked out perfectly and I eventually grew to love heading over to the dump where they'd let me smoke a J while I tossed my trash and shot the crap with the old guys and work release inmates who were there every day. Dang, I miss not having a dump nearby. Luxembourger that has moved to Germany. People don't greet you when you walk past them. In Luxembourg it's standard to either say morning at every daytime or either nod down if the person is a stranger or nod up if it's someone you know. German efficiency is a goddamn myth. The trains are never on time. The public offices have impossible opening hours and at 4 PM they drop everything to get coffee and cake. That part I like. The only pretzels they have are salty crunchy Lorgen pretzels. No sweet soft pretzels. That one hits me hard. At uni instead of applauding they start knocking on their seats as a sign of approval. In Luxembourg there's like 60 of you so no wonder you greet everyone. Lived in northern Houston most of my life. Always thought the drivers were pretty awful. It's Texas, what are you gonna do? Recently moved to Dallas for school, though, and IT's somehow worse. I'm from West Virginia and moved to Virginia after graduating from college for work. Naturally, I hear tons of disparaging comments about West Virginia and West Virginians in general, like, the incest jokes are never ending. I hear something at least once a week, sometimes from people I just met, or even complete strangers that may pick up on something or overhear something in conversation. 90% of it is just people joking around, which I usually laugh along with since I'm a good sport, but that other 10% annoys the frick out of me. It's mostly from people who I really do believe mean well, but are just totally oblivious to how ignorant and pretentious they sound with the questions they ask and the statements they make. The two that really get me are, I bet you are just so much happier here, aren't you, and ugh, I'm so glad I'm not from West Virginia. Virginia is great. The funny infuriating thing about it is that these people have clearly never paid any attention to what's going on outside of Nova Richmond, Virginia Beach. Southern and Western Virginia really isn't any better than West Virginia, honestly. Not sure if it's an urban thing or just Milwaukee, but I've had several instances where I've been the first person in line at a red light, only to have another driver pull into the intersection from the right turn lane and back up to be in front of me, because screw the crosswalk and waiting 1 second when the light finally turns green, I guess. Moved to Boston. I don't know what the frick a water bubbler is, and I throw my trash in a can, not a barrel. Also, if I go to Dunkin' Donuts and order a bagel with cream cheese, I expect the cream cheese on the bagel so I can eat it on the drive to work. But no, not in Boston. You get a knife and a little packet of cream cheese and you have to apply it yourself at a red light or wait to get to work to eat your breakfast. From Australia to the UK, they stand on the wrong side on escalators. I moved to Tennessee and I was astounded I could not buy any alcohol on a Sunday. I've spent the majority of my adult life living in various countries outside the US, so I have a ton of these. I don't live there anymore, but France was definitely the most frustrating 3 years of my life. The worst was going to the pharmacy while I was miserably sick and asking for something for my sore throat. The pharmacist recommended un suppositoire. Thinking I must have heard her wrong or mistranslated the word, I asked, "Pardon?" She was just kind of like, "You know," and pointed up her butt. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. I lived in Ohio for a while. The amount of people that called me out for not saying pop when talking about a soda was insane. Glasgow to London, the sausages are not square. Born and raised in the Seattle area, coffee house on every corner, and it doesn't matter if it's 6 in the morning or 11 at night, you can always find a good latte. Recently, I moved to a small farming town in eastern WA. There's a coffee stand in walking distance from my house. Why, or so I thought. Problem is, they aren't open on weekends at all, after 4 on weekdays, or after 2 during school vacations. As a northerner that moved to the south, this southern hospitality is driving me insane. People are so nice here it's unsettling. I have to drive to the bad side of town just to feel more at home. I'm from Jersey and go to Myrtle Beach every spring to golf for a long weekend. Drives me freaking bananas how slow and polite those people are with everything. Driving, food service, handies, you name it. They're slow yet super polite about it. Moved from the USA to Lebanon. People are straight rude if they're at work, particularly if they're in the service industry. I was straight mocked to my face for being friendly to wait staff, shopkeepers, etc. Finally back in America and I love having my people at my regular shops. They'll even hold stuff for me because they know I'll want it. Tell me about special deals. It's awesome. But whenever I go visit there I have to act like an uppity bee to get good service. In Memphis, service is abysmal. You have been visited by the bee of jazz. Like this video to have your ears filled with cool jazz. If you are new to the channel you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.